It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
All right, people, it's November 20th, 2024. I am Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. We are live streaming via the internet on websites such as rumble.com, youtube.com, and locals.com. We've got a live chat going right now at rubinreport.locals.com and a post-game show about 30 seconds after the program, as always. And the theme today really is the legacy media is getting bitch slapped hard right now for its lies, its ridiculousness, and its inability to say anything remotely close to the truth. Then we get an election that doesn't go their way, and they are going completely apoplectic right now, and it's burst forth, and it's great, and it's good, and we're watching a changing of the guard, and it's, I would say, perfectly congruent with so many of the things that I have been talking about for a long time, so I'm feeling pretty good this morning. And I want to start with a clip. I'm not even going to give you any more about the show. We're just going to dive right in, because this clip up top is lovely. It's a two-parter for you, and it's a lovely piece of media, because Sunny Hostin, who, as you know, I believe she is the most racist person on mainstream TV. It's hard to decide who the most racist is. Megyn Kelly believes it's Joy Reid. I believe it's Sunny Hostin. 2 days ago on The View, Sunny Hostin went on a somewhat unhinged rant about Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, who Trump wants to head the Department of Justice, who is a congressman here in Florida. So first, we're going to show you the 20-second clip from 2 days ago as she's going on a rant, and then we will show you the follow-up from yesterday. Enjoy.
How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old? My understanding, further on in the interview, they discussed the fact that once he finds out that she's 17, he stops having sex with her.
Okay, Sunny, so that's 2 days ago on The View, and those are fairly serious allegations. Now, and of course, an allegation is just someone said something about somebody. In America, we need evidence of such a thing to actually prosecute someone or, you know, something like that. But that is a serious allegation, 17-year-old, state lines, child trafficking. Okay, that was 2 days ago. Now, a clip from The View yesterday.
Sunny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism, that DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
We'll be right back. I mean, I have to tell you, people, I don't revel in other people's misery. Well, that's not true. In this case, I am reveling in her misery. The stone cold look and the crow that she had to eat on live television, and clear look, I have no idea what's going on with any of this, any more than you have any idea what's going on with any of this. However, the statement that Gaetz got over to ABC, that there's been a 3-year investigation and nothing has come of it other than allegations. And of course, what we know is this is purely political, because if she liked him, she would never be saying these things. But it's just a perfect moment. They lie and lie and lie about everything. And until you really start threatening them with the law, or the lies just get so debunked because of whatever remains to be free internet, mostly Twitter, then they can somehow come around and very stone cold read the statement. Matt Gaetz tweeted out that video we just showed you where she's reading the statement, and he just put the eyes emoji, like, take a look at that. And then that brought me around to really, I guess, what the theme of the show is today, which is a tweet from Elon from about a week or so ago, where he wrote, "You are the media now." And again, guys, that's what really has happened now in these last 2 weeks. This election has changed fully how people will decide to get information. It's all been changing for years now, right? The rise of the podcaster class and the fact that CNN was always trying to take out Rogan, and it had nothing to do with him eating mushrooms or being a Nazi. It was always because he was competition. And this election finally was the culmination. It was the final move. It was the final flip, right? Where now the online thing is more powerful than these people. They're focusing on us. My hope, as I keep saying, is that we will be able to focus less on them, except I would say that when you have your opponent down, and in this case, they are our opponent because they have lied about so many things. When they're finally down for the first time, you don't just get up and move on, right? Like you have to finish them off. And that's really where we're at. And I think a lot of people all over the world are realizing that. And we'll have more on that in just a second. But first, let me talk to you about home title lock. I want to tell you guys about a crime happening in the United States called house stealing, also known as title theft, where criminals can transfer your home's title into their name with just a single document and wipe out your equity without you even knowing. Many of you know I recently moved to Florida, which, like all other states, has become a hotbed for these crimes. In Sarasota, Home Title Lock caught a cyber thief from New York trying to sell a family's property on a popular real estate website. The thief had fraudulently changed the title, but Home Title Lock quickly detected it and restored the title back to the rightful owner. Imagine if they hadn't been subscribed to Home Title Lock. It could have been disastrous. If you're not monitoring your title, these criminals can get away with this, leaving you, the homeowner, to deal with the aftermath in court. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from our friends at Home Title Lock. Triple Lock is 24/7 monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. Sign up today by going to HomeTitleLock.com and the promo code Rubin, and you'll get the first 30 days of triple lock protection absolutely free and a complete title scan of your home's title so you can make sure your home hasn't already been compromised. That's 30 days free and a title report for using the promo code Rubin at HomeTitleLock.com. All right, so basically, I would say all over the world right now, we are in an information revolution. There are always going to be a certain amount of people that are going to swallow the lies. There are always going to be a certain amount of people that you can show the truth to and they're going to ignore it, right? Cypher in The Matrix, right? He saw the truth and he didn't want to see it anymore. If you haven't seen The Matrix in a while, I just rewatched it like a week ago. It's perfection and does explain so much of human psychology as it pertains to, do you want to be awake and know what's going on and have an active role in it, or do you just want to sit back and eat your steak perfectly? Anyway, if you haven't seen the scene, it's absolutely worth seeing. But this is happening all over the world. It's not just in the United States. You know, we've played a ton of clips lately of, well, I would say new, but it's been president for about a year, Argentina President Javier Milei. And he's largely a libertarian. I would say he's super red-pilled. And Argentina, which was having basically an economic collapse and cultural rot and an ever-growing bureaucratic state. Does that sound a little familiar to what we've been going through? He has come in, and in a year, he has completely, almost 180, transformed the Argentinian economy, and it is exploding right now. New businesses are coming in. They are hacking away at their administrative state, and they're also fighting the liars in the media. He was on a podcast, and here he is talking about journalists and why they censor and how thin their ideas really are.
The corruption of the media and social media. That is to say, I removed the official advertising. That's why you will see that even though we generate wonderful news, every week in large quantity, the media speak terribly. In other words, they demand to have a monopoly on the microphone. That is, they are entitled to insult, hurt, offend, and they don't want anyone to bother them. And they expect me not to even respond. That's why a large part of journalism in Argentina hates the X network. And that's why we, the liberal libertarians, love the X network. Because we can all say what we want. However, let's say these supposed journalists who defend freedom of expression, actually what they want is to censor the ideas they don't like. And of course, because they are leftists, because they are wokes, because they can't stand the competition, because if they had to fight face-to-face, hand-to-hand, on a level playing field, when it comes to ideas, they would lose because they were a failure in the economic, social, and cultural aspects. And also, we must not forget that those murderers called socialists killed 150 million people. So they clearly cannot fight on equal terms. Therefore, they demand that social networks have censorship and that the truth cannot be told to them. Because when you tell a socialist the truth, they cry, claiming it's hate speech. No, it's not hate speech. It's that you are useless people who have ruined the planet. They have made the planet much worse. And fortunately today, thanks to social media, especially due to the enormous and brave work of Elon Musk and the role of Twitter, today, X, right, allows information to flow, which makes it possible, let's say, to expose politicians and also expose the media.
That line, "You are useless people who have ruined the planet," that basically explains every progressive and their partners, their comrades in the media and in politics, and certainly in our educational institutions and basically everywhere. This is what they do. They are cockroaches that offer nothing and just basically eat away at the foundation of the home that is largely collapsing until guys like Milei come in. And really think about it for a moment. Isn't it so interesting? And this tells you about the new world we are in. Things are happening the same way all over the world. Like back in the day, go back 50 years ago, 100 years ago, back 500 years ago, it took information sometimes months and years to travel across the ocean. Now the same evil that they're fighting in Argentina is the same evil that we're fighting over here. It's the same evil that the good people of the UK are fighting. There's different versions of all of it in the different countries and different cultural norms in each country that make the fight a little bit different, but the basic fight is the fight for freedom against the authoritarians. And I love that he talks about the liberal libertarians. Isn't that interesting? Meaning he himself considers himself an old school classical liberal. He is not a conservative by any traditional definition. He's largely a libertarian. He wants the government out of the way. And then what's happened? He's gone in there, he's hacked away. We've shown you the video a million times. Afuera, 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 where he's just getting rid of, what was it, the Department of Lesbian Studies of badminton during the winter in Nigeria. Like, he's just not gonna fund that anymore. And there's very limited knowledge you can get from a department like that. Anyway, as they are, oh, and I should mention that AI, another just cool thing that's happening. I mentioned a few weeks ago, or earlier this week, I think, we have purchased an AI program, so we're able to translate those videos now. It wasn't our program that did that. That was from Lex Fridman's podcast. But even that little technological jump that now the leader of Argentina speaking in Spanish, we can hear him so clearly thanks to technology. It's just another little nugget of the cool things that are happening right now, and the horizon that we're getting to that is going to look so different, and if we traverse it correctly, will look beautiful. Anyway, as we have that opportunity to look at beautiful things once again, let's talk about some of the people that have lied along the way. CNN's Abby Phillips. This is a woman, she's got that show on, I guess it's on at 8 p.m., I'm not even sure, where she sits there with panelists, and it's just kind of like The View. They get 5 crazy leftists to yell at one conservative, and we show you a lot of clips of that guy, Scott Jennings, who's the one conservative, and he always does a nice job banging the rest of them up. Anyway, she was on a panel talking about how she cannot hide it anymore. The mainstream is crumbling, but Megyn Kelly's very scary.
I feel like I have to talk about my own demise here, but that's kind of what it is. I mean, people are not watching TV anymore, just across the board. They're just not watching TV anymore. They are not really watching much of anything all the way through. People are seeing a little bit here, a little bit there. They're seeing viral clips. They're seeing 30-second videos, 90-second videos. And everything has been chopped and screwed in the media world. And that's how we are increasingly consuming information. And I think that is only going to increase. And yes, the Trump campaign understood that, but I think they also had a deeper bench of right-leaning tastemakers to go to. The reach of conservative online media, podcasts, YouTube, all of that is massive. Facebook, it's massive. I think we can do as much as we can to always put factual information in the forefront, but we're not gonna save us from the deluge of disinformation. Until we get people to take that next step and say, hey, I saw this from Megyn Kelly, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, let me take another look. Until people do that, I think we're gonna have this problem.
That is, once again, another example of lady, just get a mirror. First off, Megyn Kelly is 10,000 times the journalist that you or anyone at CNN is. She has had a better understanding of what's going on here culturally and politically, and you guys know my feelings about her, and it's just clear. The reason she's even, it's sort of a throwaway when she mentions Megyn Kelly there at the end, but the reason she's going after Megyn Kelly is not because she thinks Megyn Kelly's a misinformation specialist. It's because Megyn Kelly is crushing her in the views. I just glanced at our numbers while we were playing that clip. Our live show yesterday, our 1 hour live show at 11 a.m. on YouTube alone got 210,000 views. Probably got another 150,000 on Rumble and the views we get on Locals and all the audio podcasts. And I'm not mentioning that to pat myself on the back. I'm mentioning it because it's because of you idiots. When you say no one's watching TV, well, that is largely correct. People are cutting the cord, right? We're all consuming things on our phone and not on televisions as much. That is true, except CNN exists online, MSNBC exists online, and people don't want it there either because you guys are the ones that have shared all the disinformation and the misinformation. So everything you said basically was completely backwards. Everything you said there. And the rest of your network is having to come around to admitting that too. This is really interesting. Yesterday on CNN, because they're now very focused on X and the alt media, right? Because they're realizing, oh shit, we better do something about this, or we better scare people about those scary people online because we're losing our grip on control. So now here is CNN admitting that X now represents a better ideological makeup of the country than virtually any other platform.
So one of the big reasons he bought Twitter/X is because he wanted to make it his own platform, remake it in his own image. And I think this really gets at it. Look at this. The party ID among those who regularly use X/Twitter for news. Back in 2022, 65% of those who regularly use Twitter/X for news were Democrats. Just 31% were Republicans. Look at where we are today. Just a completely different picture. Now it's basically split between Democrats at 48%, Republicans at 47%. And what I should note, Mr. Berman, is this new overall makeup matches the overall electorate far better. And more than that, John, look at where Mr. Musk's net worth is today versus where it was just 2 months ago. He is the richest man in the world by far. 2 months ago, look at this. His net worth was $252 billion. Look at where we are today, $314 billion. He is by far the richest man ever to be on this planet. So yes, he's not as popular. Yes, Twitter/X perhaps is not as popular, but it's a much different platform, one that more represents Elon Musk's, let's say, political instincts, and he is now a far.
There's so much in that clip. Why is he referring to that guy as Mr. Berman? Mr. Berman, are you my landlord? What's going on there? Also, the fact that he has to they show you a big number. He was worth $242 billion, and how I have to underline it. And then the other number, 314, I have to circle it because what they were focused on is lies. And then they were like, oh, can we package the lies in technology? Right? Like in just sort of useless technology, like the giant wall behind me and all of these, and I'll slide this over there and no one will even pay attention to the fact that we're lying to them about everything. But isn't that interesting? They're even acknowledging, first he opens it by saying that Elon wanted to remake X in his own image. There's like a strange undertone to what he's saying there. But if you mean in his own image in that he was going to support free speech and allow more voices and less shadow banning and trickery and shenanigans, well, then I guess that is correct. But the fact that right now, as it stands on Twitter, it's 48% Democrats, 47% Republicans, and the parity there is closer than any other social media network, that tells you something about free speech. It also kind of debunks the lie that Twitter has become this crazy right-wing cesspool, Nazi, blah, blah, blah thing. So what are the Democrats going to do? Because as they're losing control, you don't if you were, as Brett Weinstein would say, as an evolutionary biologist, like a creature that is dying or any organism that is losing control, at the end, a dog that's in the corner that's being attacked, it's going to lash out. Like, what will they do as they lose control? Well, Ryan Savadra had a great little dissection of exactly what the Democrats are going to do here. Democrats are launching a private military-grade intelligence gathering operation targeting major figures, including Elon Musk and more. Democrats have a growing belief that their efforts must extend beyond the political sphere, trying to go on offense in a splintered media environment where conservatives have amassed more influence. One new liberal dark money group began prospecting for donors with a pitch that would unearth unflattering revelations about the Murdoch family and Elon Musk, both pro-Trump media magnates. The magnates, the group called the 2+2 Coalition, plans to target the hidden sources of disinformation and expose them for what they are, according to a donor prospectus being circulated in the past week. The group asked donors for a minimum investment of $1 million and was aiming for an annual budget of 10 to 15 million. The group's senior advisor, Rick Wilson, a former Republican operative who was a co-founder of the Lincoln Project, said in an interview on Thursday that his organization would operate as an opposition research firm, but with a military-grade intelligence gathering operation that went far beyond document vetting typical of a political campaign. So do you get what these people are doing? They have been exposed as liars, this guy Rick Wilson and Lincoln Project. Lincoln Project came around because they were the principled conservatives who were anti-Trump, and they've basically become Democrat operatives. But what they are now trying to do is raise money not to build new institutions, not to build better, you could say build better left-wing media that was honest as opposed to what MSNBC and CNN are. But no, they're going to do secret military-grade operations to unearth things about the Murdoch family, Elon Musk, and who knows what else. Like, that's all they've got left. These are disgusting human people. These are disgusting human beings who should be really relegated to the dustbin of history, and they're close to it. So what do you got to do at the end? We got to raise a bunch of money to destroy the people who are literally saving the country right now. We'll have more on the media and Elon in just a second, but let me talk to you about 1775 coffee. Oh, I'm going to read this one live. Guys, Peaberry coffee isn't your average bean. It's coffee's best kept secret. Only 5% of coffee beans grow as pea berries, making them denser, more flavorful, and packed with bold energy to kickstart your mornings. This isn't just coffee, it's a richer, more powerful brew. 1775 Peaberry coffee is for those who refuse to compromise. Each bean is hand-picked at high altitudes for that smooth, powerful kick you need to fuel your day. No corporate crap, no woke nonsense, just the best coffee you'll ever taste. And it's not just about the coffee, it's about what it stands for. Whether it's Peaberry, dark or medium roast, or the new mushroom blend, 1775 coffee is about quality, freedom, and living with purpose. Head over to 1775coffee.com, grab your Peaberry and join the coffee revolution. Use code Rubin to save 15%. Your mornings deserve better. Brew Rebellion. And I am literally drinking it right now. And the fact that I forgot, even though we did do it in the run-through, that I was reading that one live today is not indicative of the caffeine levels in the coffee, which are quite high. CNN. It was once the most trusted name in news. It's now basically a place for people who are mentally ill with daddy issues to talk about why they're not thrilled with their genitals. Here they are, very concerned that Trump and his team are comparing themselves to the Avengers, and that's a very scary notion. The Avengers, of course, is a fictional group of superheroes who in real life turned out to be a bunch of woke douchebags, but okay, go.
Look at this shot right now coming in live. We got Musk there. We got, I don't recognize everybody. There's President Trump, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, who is also thought to possibly have a position coming in the administration. Senator Ted Cruz on the left with the shades. They fashion themselves on social media as this legion of superheroes, this incoming administration. Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., et cetera, et cetera. I guess we're adding pictures and names. I know you now you're looking at me like you mean the Legion of Doom. But
it's the Marvel Universe versus second-rate DC, but that's... I mean, if I understood what that meant, I would probably have a better opinion about it.
But
if we're talking about like
Musk, talk to me about Musk. What do you think about the role he's playing in this administration?
Listen, this is one of the most successful people that the world has ever known, and the ability to build businesses and think outside the box and be an entrepreneur. That's a voice that the president really values. But when you look at this totality, this kind of theme that they all think they're superheroes now, there's a little bit more swagger with the Republican Party now because they did win the White House, the House, and the Senate. You see it in sports now where people are scoring touchdowns and goals and winning matches and doing the Trump dance. There are Republicans who are feeling pretty cool about themselves for the first time in a long time, but they should stop. The guys should all stop doing the dance unless they're athletes.
The dance is a little weird,
Yeah, you know, we're going to keep doing the dance as much as we want, sometimes without music playing, which is a little weird. But do you see what they're admitting there? The reason I wanted to show you that clip is they're now admitting it. They don't like that these guys are kind of like the new Avengers and whatever. Yes, we've all become too obsessed with Marvel movies and superhero movies, and they've all kind of jumped the shark. But this is an Avengers-style team. If we are ever to fix what has been wrong with all of this. I mean, our government, our media, the entire thing, it's like this is the team to do it. Not only Donald Trump, who we don't have to go into all the ways that he stood up for years to fight this thing, but Tulsi ex-Dem and RFK and Elon, who was apolitical, and all of the people. We'll have more on some of the new people they're bringing in. They are bringing in an all-star level team. It's not just these sort of nameless, faceless people who have worked in DC forever, who will just sort of continue the Frankenstein monster that we've had forever. They're bringing in good people who aren't racists or bigots, who have a very wide array of political differentiation and everything else. And that's what we've got, and that's pretty damn good. Oh, and by the way, the main guy who he brought in, the Elon Musk guy, he is the guy that is literally trying to make interplanetary travel real, and it could happen within our lifetimes. And just yesterday, Donald Trump and Elon went to a SpaceX Starship launch. I just thought this was cool. It's like, this is the future we could have if these MFers would just get out of the way.
Welcome. The atmosphere to break as much as possible, so you're kind of going like this. So if the floor is serves the earth, it's going like this. It's literally trying to use its entire body as a brake, and then it's using these flaps to just control its position. You try to achieve roughly a 70-degree angle of attack. Sorry.
That's kind of the team that I want to be part of, if we've all got to select a team. You know, every sci-fi movie, what is basically every sci-fi dystopian movie, that all hell is breaking loose on Earth. It's a zombie apocalypse, it's a disease, it's war, whatever it is, and we've got to get to the stars. You would think that the people who think that climate change is causing the destruction of the world might be interested in the guy who's building the rockets to send us to other planets. But of course they're not, and they don't even believe their own bullshit. So now I want to jump back to that interview with Javier Milei, because here he talked about how Elon and Vivek were going to run DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, that they just got to get in and do it quick.
What advice would you give to Elon and Vivek about how to do it in the United States?
Just cut to the chase. Cut to the chase. Simple as that. I'll tell you a story and you're going to love it. Currently in Argentina, due to the political balance we've achieved, we have had certain powers delegated from Congress to the executive branch, and therefore we can resolve it by decree. The deregulation minister, Federico Sturzenegger, in his ministry, shows a counter that displays in front of everyone there. He displays the number of days, all right? During which the delegated powers will continue to be valid. Therefore, he has a whole deregulation division, also a public spending cut division, and government structure reduction division, and he also has an elite corps that's cleaning up all of the laws that hinder the economic system and progress. And every day, he removes between 1 and 5 economic restrictions. So, my advice would be for them to go all the way, to push it to the very limit. And do not give up. Do not let down their guard. Furthermore, that agenda does not have political purpose, because at the end of the day, you are removing privileges. Of course, there will be people complaining, but these are people who are losing privileges, so they will have to explain to society why they are keeping those privileges. And that is quite...
And guess what, guys? Those people who are losing privileges, who are losing their rent-seeking jobs where they don't do anything other than create problems and create more regulations and more of what the whole point of draining the swamp is, they're going to go crazy along the way. Like that is the thing. I think I tweeted this out the day after the election. The thing that they fear most about Trump, and now this, if you want to call it Avengers team, is not that he's Hitler and the Nazis are back and here we go. It's that he's going this time, because of the team around him and because of the way the world has changed and the cultural momentum and everything else, he is going to do so much good so quickly. I'm hanging my hat on it. I really am. I think that's where we're going with this. That so much good can happen so quickly once they get in there. You know, we have something like, what did Vivek say the other day? It's something like 489 federal agencies. Elon says we can get that down to probably about 100. We've added more than 2 a year in the history of our country. That's not right. It's not good. They're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. Go to DC. When was the last time any of you were in DC? We have these huge, giant buildings, the Department of this and the Department of that, and nobody's working there. They're giant nothings that just suck money and create problems and stall progress. So they're going to go in there and they're going to do it real quick. I think that's obvious, and I do hope and I do think that they will take Milei's advice on that. The other part of this, of course, is the climate change part. And the left has been going bananas on climate change. We're all going to die, and we have to stop human flourishing in the name of protecting the environment and all of those things. I think it's fairly obvious that I and RFK and Tulsi and even Donald Trump want clean water and clean air and everything else. The question is, do you have to rejigger the entire economy? Do you have to destroy industries to get there? Well, the answer to that obviously is no, and that's why the Green New Deal will be DOA once Trump is president. But check this out. This is Trump's incoming energy secretary, Chris Wright, basically doing what almost everyone has been afraid to do for years now, which is dispel the climate propaganda.
So energy matters. It matters for human lives. It matters for human well-being. It matters for low-income people and social mobility, low-income people to come up. When you hear crazy stuff today, check it out, dig a little deeper. Hurricanes are not growing. That's in the IPCC report. Tornadoes are actually on the decline. Floods, droughts, all of these things you hear ceaselessly, they just simply aren't so. It isn't even controversial that they're not so. But media, politicians just continually abuse these facts. And I'll end with one last fact, because anxiety is growing among kids. I'm sure everyone has seen that. 20% of kids go to bed at night worried about climate change. Your chance of dying from extreme weather today is greater than 95, has been reduced by more than 97% over the last century. There's just an absolute plummeting from 500,000 people a year dying from extreme weather to less than 10,000 the last couple of years, while the world population has quadrupled. So facts matter, human liberty matters, bottom-up social organization has always been the way to a better world. Let's resist this force of top-down control that's not benefiting humans except those in government.
All right, so the point is, there's ways to clean up the environment. No one wants oil in their water or pesticides leaking into their food or any of those things. But do we give it to this amorphous top-down government, which never does anything good and is not right? It's not particularly good at anything. Or do we figure out some bottom-up ways to deal with that? Also, this idea that 20% of kids are going to bed worried about think what these leftists have done. They have so broken the brains of so many. Daddy, will I wake up in the morning, or will you and mommy be in a fiery pit of hell? It's just, this is what they've actually done to people. What that was more of a Munchkin voice than an average child's voice. But Munchkins were children once. They were, that's a fact. The incoming Commerce Secretary is Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick was the former, I think is he still the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald? He is still the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. Cantor Fitzgerald, if you don't know his story, they were the company that had a couple of top floors at the World Trade Center during 9/11, and I think he lost over 2,000 employees. I mean, it's just absolutely insane what happened to that organization. In any event, he is the incoming Commerce Secretary, and here he talks about Trump's policy on tariffs as a negotiation tactic. There's a lot of controversy around whether tariffs work. You know, if you tell China we're going to put a tax on all the incoming things, is the price of goods going to go up? We'll be able to make up for it on the American side. This is an interesting debate to have. And here's Lutnick on tariffs and the policy.
And of course it's a bargaining chip. We can't sell a Ford or GM in Europe. You go to Europe, you can't sell a Ford or GM. Why? There's 100% tariffs. How about in Japan? 100% tariffs. So do you think if we said, we're going to tariff you the way you tariff us, do you think they're going to allow Mercedes and all these Japanese companies and Porsches and BMWs to all of a sudden have 100% tariffs in America? Of course not. They're going to come and negotiate, and their tariffs are going to come down. And finally, Ford and General Motors are going to be able to sell in these places.
How's that sound, Andrew? That sounds
of course they're going to come down. Of course. This is just negotiating.
It absolutely makes sense. If you do it strategically, if it's across the board, it creates a real problem. And the question is whether you believe the president is going to do it strategically or across the board. He keeps saying it across the board.
Well, when you're running for office, you make broad statements so people understand you. Right. Okay? Tariffs are an amazing tool by the president to use. They're an amazing tool, but he understands, don't tariff stuff we don't make. Right? If we don't make it, and you want to buy it, I don't want to put the price up there. It's pointless, but use tariffs to build in America. If we want to make it in America, tariff it, or if we're competing with it, tariff it. But you got to remember, we need to protect the American worker. Finally, someone's going to protect the American worker, and Donald Trump is here to protect the American worker.
A lot of money?
Guys, isn't it just so damn refreshing? We are going to have competent people in government. Like the way that Lutnick just laid that out, it's very simple to understand. If basically we try to sell a car in China, China has 100% tariff. So no American cars will be sold in China. It just economically doesn't make sense. In Japan, it doesn't economically make sense because they're going to put such a tariff on it that no one's going to buy an American car, and then they can keep all of their industry within their own country. The idea is, we're going to tell you, hey, we're going to put a tariff when you try to bring things into our country too, and then there will be a negotiating process. And then it just won't be that American jobs and companies and workers get screwed. Right now, it's a one-way screwing. We'll have a double screwing, and that's better for everybody because when people are being screwed equally, people are also winning equally. Kind of like that one. We have some breaking information. I think this happened last night. Dr. Oz is going to be part of the administration as well. Breaking, President-elect Trump nominates Dr. Oz to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. America is facing a healthcare crisis, and there may be no physician more qualified and capable than Dr. Oz to make America healthy again. And a statement from, I don't have to read you the whole statement, but in essence, Dr. Oz, I was just with Dr. Oz a couple days ago in Phoenix with Jordan Peterson, and we had dinner. This is a good guy who loves this country, who wants the country to be out of this insane health crisis that we have been in, that we've talked a lot about on the show lately. And again, it's like, Dr. Oz, what you need are good communicators. You need people who are experts, right? So get some people who know how to do things. We just laid out Howard Lutnick. It's a very simple explanation of why you negotiate using tariffs, right? It's a negotiation point. Dr. Oz, not only does he have the scientific background, but he's a communicator. He's been a talk show host forever. Pete Hegseth. Not only does he have a great military background, but he's also been a TV host. So they're bringing in people, Vivek, like all of these people who clearly can communicate their ideas rather than being like, oh, you chopped your genitals off? We'll put you in charge of the Department of Homeland Security. Let's talk about Rumble Premium, and then we'll have more on the other side. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions around COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Of course, Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked by brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove free speech while Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers alone. They don't get much of it. So watching our show is the number one way we can ask for support from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with promo code Rubin when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin and use code Rubin. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us right here on Rumble. All right, so we've gone into some of the collapse of the mainstream media. We've illustrated that there are some good people that are currently being brought on board via the Trump transition team, not that type of transition. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But one of the potentials is that Jay Bhattacharya, who I've had on the show many, many times, who was one of the most outspoken people against COVID lockdowns and forced mandates with injections and all of the stuff, he is being floated as a possible director of the NIH, which is fantastic. I want to show you a video, him talking to Dr. Drew just over the last couple of days, talking about how this election and the results of this election have broken a spell and that there's an incredible opportunity right now, which I think is becoming obvious to everybody.
It does seem like the election has sort of broken some of the spell. I mean, it's not that it's gone, but it's still. I think it has lost some of its power. You know, I think it's the boy you cried wolf. Like if you are screaming bloody murder, and you know the thing that you're screaming about doesn't happen, people aren't going to believe you so much as easily anymore. Maybe that's what's happening. And we'll see. I have to say, I never thought that it was possible to scare the population in the way that the population was scared in 2020. I thought
I was
the public
surprised
health.
too.
I thought like we were more rational a people than that. That we would look at data. I mean, I confess I was very naive at the beginning of 2020. I thought that a data point or two would dispel fear and panic, especially if it's a real data point. And I turned out to be wrong about that. So I guess I'm a little gun shy about making any confident claims that we are beyond that now. Maybe
Yes,
I
of course.
was wrong.
Listen to the humility that that guy speaks with. I kind of made a mistake. I didn't quite see things clearly. And yet he was actually one of the best during all of COVID, which is why I've had him on the show at least a dozen times, because he was one of the voices that I was like, oh, this guy is not insane and not hysterical and everything else. So Donald Trump or anybody over at Mar-a-Lago, if you guys are still debating this pick, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya for NIH director, I think it could almost not be more perfect. Someone with a little humility, someone with a little bit of skepticism to come in there and clean up what is clearly one of the biggest messes that we have in all of government. Of course, the other thing related to the spell, when he talks about the spell that we were all under, we've all been under a spell that somehow men can be women and women can be men and nobody knows what the difference between a man and a woman is and that a man can get pregnant and all of these crazy things. Well, there is a massive fight happening in the House in DC right now over the first trans member of Congress. So Representative Nancy Mace, who is a full-on woman, she's got it all. She does not want biological men in the women's bathrooms. That would have been a position that 10 years ago every sane person would have agreed with. Here's a bill that she is trying to pass right now. Biological men do not belong in women's spaces, period. Full stop. End of story. And here's her resolution. Prohibiting members, officers, and employees of the House from using single-sex facilities other than those corresponding to their biological sex and for other purposes. Whereas allowing biological males into single-sex facilities such as restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms designed for women jeopardizes the safety and dignity of members, officers, and employees of the House who are female. Now, therefore, be it resolved. Section 1, prohibition on the use of single-sex facilities other than those corresponding to the biological sex of an individual. Then it goes on and on. I don't need to read more of that. Now, you might be saying, well, why is this happening right now? And the reason it is happening right now is that there is the first, quote unquote, trans Congresswoman person in the House right now. This is from the Daily Mail headline. Trans Congresswoman Sarah McBride blasts Republicans after proposal that would block her, their word, from using the women's bathroom in Capitol Hill. So there is Sarah McBride. So you're seeing Nancy Mace, who's all woman. And then you have Sarah McBride. Okay, fine. There's been a lot of images of Sarah McBride going around when he was a man. It's so stupid. Can you just pull up this image? So that is him. And what was his name then? Before it was Sarah McBride, it was Bobby, Jimmy, Ted, Frank, Sal. All right, we'll get his name in a second. But that guy that you're looking at right there is now this woman. So could we flash? Bear with me on the nonsensical. So his name was Andrew Cray. Okay. God, it's so bananas. Go back to Andrew Cray for a moment. So this is Andrew Cray, and Andrew Cray is now a member of the House known as Sarah McBride. And let's go back to Sarah McBride. Now go back to Andrew Cray. And now go back to Sarah. You see what we're doing here? So that guy is now that woman, quote unquote, and Nancy Mace, who's all woman, doesn't want that dude in her bathroom. And I think that that's fine. Go to the bathroom that you should be in, or that they should. I'm fairly certain in the House they probably have some genderless bathrooms or whatever else. I mean, remember Donald Trump's position on this years ago when they asked him about this, and he's like, "I build hotels. If you tell me I can just build one bathroom for everybody, that'll be fine." Anyway, Nancy Mace. So of course the media is trying to destroy Nancy Mace, that she's a transphobe and she's a bigot and she hates women or men or something like that, and she's just not having any of it.
The radical left is calling me an extremist for being a feminist, fighting to protect the rights of women and girls. If being a feminist makes me an extremist or a bigot or a monster, I am totally here for it, because I'm going to fight like hell for every woman and every little girl across this country to protect you and keep you safe.
All right, so I do want to say, as I said during the run through with the team, it's like, look, if George Washington and the founders were like, what's going on in 248 years from today, if we were looking at America, what would they be debating about? It must be such amazing stuff. And it's like they're debating whether boys or girls and who can go to the bathroom. The founders would probably not be thrilled. But Nancy Mace, of course, is right about this. And you might say, oh, all right, it doesn't matter about this one member of Congress, but we don't know how many staffers there are and everything else. And personally, I would just err on the side of women being allowed to be in women's spaces without feeling that they're being violated. It's as simple as that. The media, of course, is going after Nancy Mace. She is enemy number one right now. Here's Yesterday on the Hill.
Here she goes. Here's Congresswoman Mace. Congresswoman Mace, can I ask you a question as you walk here? So the question is, with your piece of legislation about banning women from using...
100% yes.
My question to you is...
And it doesn't go far enough. I'll be filing more bills.
You have said that it was created in response to Congresswoman-elect McBride.
100%. And
but should legislation be created targeted at one specific person?
It doesn't mention anyone in the legislation, but
you've said it was aimed at her.
No, I have said it's a result of this. I'm not going to allow biological men into women's private spaces. I will stand in the brink and stand in the way of anyone on the radical left who thinks that it's okay for a penis to be in a women's locker room or a bathroom or a changing room. Hell no. I am not going to stand for it. And the Speaker said it would be in the House rules package. If it's not, I will be ready with a motion, a privileged motion, to force a vote on this. This is not okay. I'm a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And I'm not going to allow any man in any female private spaces.
Now, Speaker,
end of story. And by the way, I'm getting death threats from men pretending to be women. Why is it that these crazy people, the insanity, the radical left, are willing to kill women over a man's right to be in a women's restroom?
Speaker Johnson is...
I mean, you can't argue with any of that, can you? You really can't. On top of the fact that she's a survivor of rape and sexual assault, she might have a little skin in this game. And she's just factually right. And we have to stop playing these weird linguistic games. Even the phrase transgender woman and all of these things, like, they have just dragged us to the precipice of hell. We're finally fighting back in a cultural sense. And although this is in some ways just like this little nothing about bathrooms in the House, it does represent something much bigger. Now, interestingly, I'm going to show you two videos of Mike Johnson, House Speaker, Republican Mike Johnson. And at first he was asked if a boy can become a girl, and look at his response. And then we're going to show you a follow-up to it later in the day. This is both from yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, is freshman-elect Sarah McBride a man or a woman?
Look, I'm not going to get into this. We welcome all new members with open arms who are duly elected representatives of the people. I believe it's a command that we treat all persons with dignity and respect, and we will. And I'm not going to engage in silly debates about this.
Okay, there's something interesting there, because it's not really a silly debate. The question was, is Sarah McBride a man or a woman? The answer to that, if I was Mike Johnson and I was up there, I would say the answer is that Sarah McBride is a biological male. Sarah McBride identifies as a woman and presents as a woman, but I will also treat that person with respect as long as they abide by the laws of the Constitution of the United States and everything else. So the rest of his answer was right, but you could see he was a little afraid to just say what truth is. Well, he got massive pushback on that, and then here he is later in the day.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said. But I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
That's the right answer. So he slightly, and I'm actually not criticizing him here, he slightly bungled it the first way, but it's not, by the way, not just what Scripture says, it's what biology says. It's what actual science says. There are biological differences between men and women. We've always known it. We still know it now. And then he's still going out of his way to say, I will treat this person with respect. By the way, I fully, firmly, 100% agree with that. Where is Sarah McBride from? What state is... Here's where me, and maybe someone would say I'm a little squishy on this, Sarah McBride, who I am not denying, is obviously a biological male. Sarah McBride is from Delaware. Sarah McBride ran, I don't think, hiding this information. The people elected Sarah McBride, and I would say as long as Sarah McBride, as an adult, who chooses to dress this way and use this other name, as long as that person, I would say, treats the system with respect and treats other people with respect. In this case, I would, maybe it's for confusion's sake, if nothing else, I don't have a particular problem saying her at some level here. Maybe I'm not totally right on that. I'd love to hear what you guys think on all of that. I think it starts getting very confusing if you have this person, Sarah McBride, who looks like a woman, and you keep saying him. And what Johnson is really trying to say there is, don't take reality. Don't make me deny reality. I can see this human being, and if this human being wants to live this way, I can treat them with respect, and we're all in this house together, right? But don't make me deny reality. So we can all have our own feelings on how you deal with the pronouns specifically when it comes to one specific person and how you treat individuals. But that's different than the denial of reality. But the point is, to get to the earlier clip of Jay Bhattacharya, the spell has been broken. Nancy Mace is not going to step down on this, and she's not wrong. That person is a biological male and should not be in women's bathrooms, pronouns and respect notwithstanding. So let's get to the other big thing around the Trump presidency, which of course is going to be deportations, because we need them, we have to have them. This is not working, and you just can't let 12 to 15 million people into your country to do whatever the high hell they want to do. Here's a tweet from the New York Post. Trump confirms plan to use military force to deport migrants after declaring national emergency. Okay, so that's what he said he was going to do. We'll have more on Tom Homan in just a second, who's going to be in charge of doing that, but he's got a serious dude in Homan that's going to do it. The American people clearly want it. He's got the mandate to do it, and now has the House and the Senate and the presidency. So it seems like it's going to happen. Let's jump over to CNN and Scott Jennings, who I talk a lot about, who's doing a nice job over there of explaining just, these are basic conservative principles, and the guy did win, so you guys better kind of suck it up. Well, here he goes.
Some of this, and think about this.
The challenge of sorting through them is mammoth. We had a hard time doing it in Iraq. Okay, our troops have had a hard time doing it in Afghanistan. Trying to ask them to sort through who's who and implement a policy like this, here in the United States is like nothing we've ever seen. Actually, I mean, hold on. Maybe the only precedent we have is internment camps during World War II against Japanese Americans. But there's not a military precedent for sorting through who on the Upper East Side is an illegal and who's not.
You've twice now insinuated that Trump's going to send the military to round up American citizens, which is totally false. There are 1.3 to 1.6 million illegal immigrants in this country today who have already received deportation orders from a court. You can start there. There's another population, as Mark said, that have either committed violent crimes in the United States or committed violent crimes where they came from. You can also do that. That has nothing to do with the people in your neighborhood, has nothing to do with the person in your office, and has nothing to do with whatever the hell you're talking about. It has to do with getting people out of the country who do not belong.
How are you going to deploy the military? Give me how exactly you would deploy an active duty military unit to respond to this crisis.
I would use the military in conjunction with local officials.
You know, it's so interesting because that guy, Paul Rieckhoff, who basically is like, sorting will be difficult. This will be hard to do, so don't do it. It's like, well, what? What are you talking about? Humans do hard things. We somehow put a human on the moon once. That was a long time ago. We somehow did that. That was tough. But we managed to do that. There's no atmosphere there. There's no air. We figured that out. So maybe we can do difficult things. Also, the idea, the same people like, oh, this is going to be tough to do. You guys are the same people that think literally you can pass laws that are going to stop climate change, which you also think is going to destroy us. Like, none of it makes sense. None of their arguments make sense. And they think they can accomplish anything except things that actually can be accomplished. We can figure it out, as Jennings calmly laid out there. There's 1.2 million people that already have the orders. The judges have already decided you're here illegally, you got to go. Starting with them would be something. None of us want the military rampaging through the streets, just grabbing people, where are your papers and everything else. But can we build a system that is going to make sense around some of this? And will there be messy things on the fringe of some of this? Of course there will be, but that's not a reason. It's so counter to humanity. Sorry, this is going to be complex to do. Okay, I won't do it. Humans do the things that are complex to do. That's literally the point of being a human, basically. This video has been going super, super viral. This is an illegal immigrant in New York City, basically threatening Trump to pay him and his child, otherwise he won't leave. And it's an AI translation on this thing.
We are not leaving here, we are staying here in New York. I am my little chubby one. So please respond to the other video I sent you. If you are not going to give us $20,000, because this son of mine is from New York. He is American. Donald Trump. I await your response.
First off, I have unbelievable empathy and sympathy for this kid who's now going to be used in a tool. Like, they're going to find this guy, obviously. He's basically threatening the incoming president. Like, if you don't give me 20 grand, we're not going anywhere. Well, it's not going to be up to you. That video went crazy viral over the last couple of days. And then Tom Homan, who's going to be in charge of the deportations, well, he saw the video, probably not the wisest thing to do, dude. And he wrote, target acquired. No one comes here illegally, then tries to blackmail us into leaving the USA only if we hand over 20 grand. This isn't Biden's administration anymore, it's Trump's. 68 days until we start the biggest mass deportation in American history. And guys, look, I know some of this is going to be cold. It is. And it's sad and it's unfortunate, but it's not the fault of the people that are trying to correct it now. It's the fault of the people who made it happen in the first place. And by the way, if you don't protect your borders, if you don't protect your culture, then you will literally throw everything away. If you would like a perfect example of that, Mississauga, which is right outside of Toronto, Canada, well, they are under complete jihad assault right now. Check this out from over the weekend.
جهاد سبيلنا سبيلنا الجهاد غايتنا الله والجهاد سبيلنا والموت في سبيل الله أسمى أمانينا تكبير تكبير على القدس رايحين شهداء بالملايين على القدس رايحين شهداء بالملايين.
For those of you that are not native Arab speakers, they're talking about how jihad is their path, how death is the way of our aspirations. They want to march to Jerusalem. You got a problem, Canada. And unfortunately, unlike the US, where we're going to deal with this thing, you guys aren't going to deal with it because you have an asexual weirdo as prime minister, Justin Trudeau, who's really no more qualified to be prime minister than any other third-rate acting coach, which is basically what he was, a theater drama kid. And here he is, even Justin Trudeau, whose time is limited, but he has done so much damage to that country. I just don't know if they can get themselves out of it. Here now he is, a man who has had more to do with the destruction of a once great country, Canada, than anyone else. Well, he's now realizing that, oh, the jihadists on the streets, who are probably going to behead people like you, Justin Trudeau, well, we maybe have a problem there, so let's put a little freeze on immigration for a bit.
Is primarily a federal job. We have the levers to rein it in, so we are.
This is a big change, a major cut to immigration, reducing permanent immigration levels by at least 20%.
A new string of measures to clamp down on temporary immigrants.
That means a decrease in international students, temporary foreign workers.
Canada's new immigration plan is straightforward. Lower the number of new immigrants coming into Canada, both temporary and permanent.
He's genuinely evil. Like, he's Newsom level evil. The way he sits there with the shirt rolled up, leaning over, and the nice affect, and it's like, dude, you brought in the jihadis. You ushered in the destruction of your country, and it's too late, man. It's too late. You gotta go. You should be kicked out of your own country too, if there's any just just cause happening in Canada. It's like you should be the first kicked out, then they can deal with the jihadis. Anyway, I want to jump back to Javier Milei, because from a leader like Trudeau, who was a leftist progressive lunatic who couldn't tell you the difference between a boy and a girl, as he ushered in the jihadists who were the first to behead the boy girls or the girl boys, well, then there's good people out there like Javier Milei. And here he is talking about what sort of proper governance is, why he hates the overreaching state, and actually giving a definition of liberalism in the truest sense that actually makes sense.
Strictly speaking, I am an anarcho-capitalist. I despise the state government. I despise violence. Let us suppose we take the definition of liberalism. I usually use the definition of liberalism given by Alberto Venegas Linchijo, which is very much in line with the definition of John Locke, which essentially matches the definition by Alberto Venegas Lynch Jr., who said that liberalism is the unrestricted respect for the life project of others based on the principle of non-aggression and in defense of the right to life, liberty, and property. So I frame all of the discussions within those terms. And the fact is that when you get to that notion, I would dare say that you become an anarcho-capitalist de facto. And what that describes, it is an idea which represents my ideal world. I mean, that is the ideal world. Now, real life poses a whole lot of restraints. And some of those you can lift, and those restrictions and others you can't. So, in real life, I am a minarchist. I advocate for minimizing state size. I try to remove as many regulations as possible. In fact, that is what I used to say during my campaign, and let's say that is what I'm now carrying out.
So what would you want? What do most of us want? We want a government that does the proper things, but other than that, gets out of the way. Make sure we're not getting killed. Give us some decent infrastructure. Privatize and make people as free as possible to do as much with their money and their life and their passions as they want. And then have some minor guardrails. That's what he wants. And ironically, that is the true classically liberal tradition. You know what I'll do? I don't even know if I make any money on the book anymore, but anyone that if you want to read Don't Burn This Book, if you haven't read it before, if you buy it today, just for the next if you buy it before midnight tonight, anyone that buys it, forward your receipt, whether you get it on Amazon or anywhere else, forward it to contact@rubinreport.com, and I'll personally sign something for you a sticker that you can put in the book. If you buy Don't Burn This Book, it's my explanation of what classical liberalism is, and it's obviously very much in line with what he's laying out right there. And I talk about John Locke and a whole bunch more. I do want to before we finish this up, I want to get this a little bit out of the political realm, because of course the other part of what's going on here is that there is a mass awakening. There is a mass awakening that I think is spiritual, that I think is existential. I think many of us have realized, boy, this thing really got too far out of control, and we better not just believe in government, we better believe in something else. So now let's jump back to Milei, and here he is talking about how his own faith and his evolving faith, I should say, is deeply connected to what he is now doing in Argentina.
Faith, I'd say, has been a very fundamental element, And especially in recent times, during which I've become actively involved, particularly in the teachings of Judaism and in the study of the Torah. This has given me a huge background to face the many adversities which I've encountered and had to overcome in the last few years. And as to who God is, He's the creator, the maker. I call Him the One.
So Milei, who is not Jewish, he is finding he is finding the well of creativity, of human aspiration, all of that through studying the Torah, through Judaism. Donald Trump clearly, suddenly, from a more Christian perspective, and the people around him are realizing, boy, there's something here beyond the government. And Donald Trump has even talked about how he felt that, the little tick of his head that turned so that his ear only got shot instead of his brain blowing out, that was the hand of God involved in that. So maybe there is something going on here. And then what else would we need if government is not our father, if government is not our mother and our family? Well, how about real family? Here's Matthew McConaughey talking to rock legend, music legend, he's beyond that, sort of Renaissance man, Rick Rubin. No relation as far as I know, although that would be pretty cool.
How has being a father changed your life?
It's the only thing I ever knew I wanted to do.
Really?
Yep. And that was always clear to me. I wanted to be a father. It's the living form of immortality.
Yeah.
Become a father, you're immortal. Become a parent, you are immortal. There's so many lessons that I'm realizing that I'm not going to figure out in this life, but they may come to fruition by my eldest son's great-great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I will be an author of that. That sense of immortality in fatherhood is something that I'm really honored with.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. And I think we're in the process of that right now. Many of us who woke up from that spell that Jay Bhattacharya is talking about, and then suddenly we're going, boy, if we do a little something good here, we're not going to figure out all the answers to the questions of the universe. Like Elon's not going to get us to Mars and we're going to find the monolith there from 2001 and be like, oh my God, now we understand every question ever. But you can lay some of the foundation so that the generations behind you don't have to deal with the craziness and the BS and the medieval lunacy that so many of our ancestors died because of. And we could pave the way to the stars and get a little closer to something that maybe is eternally true. How did I do there? Guys, we got a post-game show coming up in 30 seconds. RubinReport.locals.com. And yeah, as I mentioned, if you want to buy Don't Burn This Book, I'm not even sure if I get residuals on it. This has nothing to do with money or anything else, but I think it's probably, from an American perspective, the best explanation of classical liberalism. And it has obviously a bit of my personal story and everything else. If you forward your receipt wherever you get it online, if you forward your receipt to contact@RubinReport.com, we'll sign something for you. I'll personalize it if your name's in there, and we'll do that till midnight tonight. All right, thank you for watching. See you post-game in a couple seconds. Ciao.